Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Brian with Games Under Pressure, bringing you a look at Forza Motorsport 6. This is the third Forza game we have on the Xbox One. Of course, the first was Forza Motorsport 5, which actually launched with the console. Last year we got the excellent Forza Horizons 2, and this year we have Forza Motorsport 6. I'm going to skip past this loading screen because it's about a minute, so I'm going to go at 800 times speed here, and it loads into something that is very, very appalling. And here, just watch this.
Why do we race? Is it to prove how fast we are? How far we can go? Do we race to find our place? To test our beliefs? To be part of something greater? To face fear? To know sacrifice? To grow stronger? To become immortal? In truth, there is no simple answer to why we race. There is only the fact that we always will.
Can you tell me what that is? What was that intro? Because I have no idea. It was just a kid throwing a stone, and then everybody is running to it, and then he's kissing a girl. I don't understand what any of that has to do with this game. It's really strange. I was watching that, just sort of shaking my head like, what is this all about? Just get me into the game. I don't want to see that garbage. I mean, it's just weird. It's just really weird, but thankfully, that is one of my only problems with the game so far, and thankfully, you don't have to watch it every time you start the game. But it's just very strange, and I feel sort of cheated that I had to wait for the game to load so I could get to that, and then wait for it to load after. But yeah, so here we're going to just jump right into it. They're pretty good about easing you into the game. And of course, the marquee car, the car that has been all over their advertising, is the 2017 Ford GT. And the cool thing is they just throw you right into that car. You don't have to unlock it or anything. It's just the first race. You're in the GT and you're ready to go. It's pretty neat. It's a really cool way to sort of ease players into it. And that is not the end of easing players into it. There is actually a very lengthy tutorial here. This race is part of that tutorial. After this race, they actually put you through 3 additional races. So there is a lot to learn. During those 3 races, they walk you through things like drivatars, things like modifications to your car, and it's all pretty easy at first. Now, if you've never played a Forza game, one of the cool things about Forza, something that I really appreciate as somebody who's terrible with these sim racers, is the fact that you have an abundance of options at your disposal, and you can make the game as easy or as difficult as you want, which is very, very neat. So you can see while I'm racing here, I have colored arrows on the ground, and if I'm going to take a corner a little bit too fast, those arrows turn red. If I'm going the perfect speed for that turn or that corner, like you just saw, the arrows stay this bluish turquoise color. So if you're not a big sim racer kind of person, you can jump right in. You don't have to worry about, oh, how is this car going to handle? How is this car going to handle? Because the physics in this game are pretty unforgiving. So if you take a corner a little bit too fast, you can spin out. You can go off the road. You can hit a wall. It's pretty unforgiving. Another really cool feature that they have in this game that has been in almost every Forza game that I can remember is the ability to rewind a few seconds. So if you do take a corner a little bit too fast, if you ignore those red arrows and you slam into a wall and you were in first place and now you're in 24th place because of one mistake, what you can do is press the Y button and rewind a few seconds until before you screw it up. So it really does a good job of easing players into it. I especially like those kind of features because I'm not good at sim racers, and you'll see later on that the way I corner is basically slamming into other cars. So any help that I can get is fine with me. I like it. I appreciate it. So with that first race out of the way, which is actually fairly easy, it gives you sort of a recap of the race where your car pulls over to the side there and you can see just what kind of damage you did to the car during that race, which is a nice little touch. And of course, they want to reward your loyalty by, if you've played other Forza games, you get different cars for playing those games, which is a nice little touch. I don't know if any of these cars are decent or what. I'm not a car guy, but they all look pretty cool, and more cars is a good thing. Now what they're going to do is allow you to switch up your Forza assists. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. So you have things like the suggested line, auto braking, assisted braking, things like that. And you can go through and turn off or on any of those options depending on your skill level. So here is sort of a little introduction. There are a lot of these where it's just sort of an announcer talking to you. It gets a little bit frustrating, especially as somebody who's played past Forza games. I sort of know the ropes, but they are just basically cleverly disguised loading screens. You can see the loading icon in the lower right-hand corner. And speaking of loading, let's talk about loading for a second. The loading times in this, that is my biggest problem with the game. My biggest problem. Some of these loading times have been a minute, sometimes more than a minute. I had one loading screen that was about a minute and 15 seconds, which is a very, very, very long time, especially since these races are relatively short. Some of these races are only 3 to 5, maybe a little bit longer than that, minutes long. But to encounter a minute loading time or a minute and 15-second loading time between those races, that is pretty rough. Thankfully, the game does look fairly decent, so you are getting a lot of benefits of that loading, but you can really feel the Xbox One's 5400 RPM hard drive chugging along with this, which is frustrating. This is a pretty cool part. What they're going to do is allow you to select designs created by the community, and I don't know how they get all of these, because you can see that a lot of these are made by the same like 3 or 4 people. So I'm not sure exactly where they get these, but it's a nice little touch that you can see what the community is creating, and you can in an instant download those to your car, give your car a unique look, which is really, really neat. Here is another race, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to speed past this one really quick because I failed this one pretty bad. Like I said, I am not a really great sim racer guy. So here is the second race after I failed the first race. For these, you have to come in the top 3, and in the previous race, I came in number 4. Here's a look at sort of third person. Again, the game looks okay. You can see in the distance things aren't super, I don't want to say they're not sharp because they're sharp, but it almost looks like a fake set from a movie where the background just looks a little bit out of place. You can tell that it's just sort of a single texture. There's not really any depth to it. It looks like a cardboard cutout, which I don't know, considering how good Forza Horizon looked, that's a little bit disappointing to see. You can see just how weird that looks, but the rest of the game does look very nice. I actually prefer the cockpit view a little bit more than the third person. I feel that the background, the rear view mirror there is a nice little touch. You can see who's behind you in a realistic sort of way. The only other disappointing thing is that the interior of the cars, though, aren't super detailed. So you can see that all the structures are there. So you can see the temperature controls and, you know, the shifter and the ignition and the dashboard and things like that. But the dashboard itself doesn't look like it has any textures on it. It's just sort of this flat texture with no detail. So that again, that's a little bit disappointing. But overall, the game does look really, really good. The sense of speed is wonderful. And also, playing on the Xbox One, I got to say the impulse triggers, and this is something that I really appreciated with Forza 5 and Forza Horizon 2, is that the impulse triggers basically mimic what your tires are feeling on the road. So if you're going over, like I am right now, driving terribly and going over the grass, the controller starts to shake and you can feel each one of those triggers rumbling, and it gives you the sense of immersion that frankly is missing from a lot of other racing games, and it's all because of that hardware, those impulse triggers, which are so, so wonderful. Each car feels a little bit different in terms of how they handle. Of course, there are all different types of cars in here, from these small, sporty little cars like I'm in now to these GT cars to Indy cars. So there's a very big variety here. And if you like a certain car, I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find it. One of my favorite parts about Forza 5 and Forza Horizon 2 is what they call drivatars. And what these Forza games do is basically keep track of all of your driving. And then they create what's called a drivatar for your account. And it's an NPC, a non-playable character, or in this case, a non-playable car. So the people that I'm racing against, they drive like you would. And then that car dynamically populates your friends' games and other games. So you can see with the people that are around me right now and in back of me, there are little names over their cars, and those names are the people's gamer tags. So these are all cars that have been, in essence, sort of like trained by other people playing Forza games. And it's not just Forza 6, it's Forza 5. If you've played that, your drivatar will appear in here. In other people's games, in your friend's game, it's Forza Horizon 2 and, of course, Forza 6. So the cool thing is, my cousin, you'll see him in this game, even though he only played Forza 5 for a very limited time. It took all of his races, came up with sort of an amalgamation of how he races, and then dynamically populates that in my game. So it's basically asynchronous multiplayer, and so even though my cousin doesn't own Forza 6, I can, in essence, play against him or play against a car that is using his style. At the end of each race, you'll get XP points to level up. At the end of each level, when you reach the next level, you'll get a free spin. And this is something that they introduced in, I believe they introduced it in Forza Horizon 2, but I don't know if I got lucky here or what, but I got the Bugatti Veyron, which seems sort of strange for a first spin. I don't know if they give that to everybody just to, almost like a casino, just giving you a very small payout, and then you're like, I'm going to win every single time, but you really don't. That might just be that, so I got to watch other streams or whatever to see if other people get the Veyron right out of the bat. But yeah, it's pretty cool. The drivatars are really neat. That's powered by Microsoft's cloud system, so everything is being uploaded to the cloud. It's being computed in the cloud, and then those drivatars are being downloaded to your local Xbox, which is pretty neat. Now, Forza 5. Okay, a lot of people had very significant problems with that game because it was a full-price $60 game. But there was a lot that was locked behind a paywall, a lot that you had to pay for in order to experience. And so whether it was cars or other aesthetics, what you had to do was pay real world money to get those. And those are cars that people thought should have been included. In many cases, they were included in Forza 4, so people felt a little ripped off, and I don't blame them. The good news about Forza 6 is that so far, I've been playing it for a few hours, so far, I have not seen an option to jump to a store anywhere, which is a wonderful, wonderful improvement. Now we're getting into something called mods, and this is, I believe this is new for Forza 6. It's been a long time since I played Forza 5. You basically earn credits at the end of each race, and you can use those credits to unlock basically like card decks, you can think of them as. And each one of these card decks, each one of these cards is a mod. So you can see here that I got a mod that allows for a plus 6% grip on a certain course. So it's just a base grip plus a 6% grip on a certain course. So I would assume those stack to make it 12. And I'm going to buy a little bit more of an expensive mod pack. And the cool thing is there are what they call dare cards. And these dare cards give you little challenges. So one of them was first person. So you have to stay in the cockpit view, the first person, which is what I like. And if you do, they'll give you a bonus credit increase. So you can stack these. So I can actually use 3 of them right now, and I stacked them. So I have an improved grid position, improved payout, and the grip specialist. And so all 3 of those things stack to either help you or give you more credits at the end of each race, which is a pretty cool system, actually. It's almost sort of like the Pokemon starter deck or not even like the booster packs, where you constantly want to get a new booster pack because you don't know what's going to be in there. It's all a mystery. So I can see those getting a little bit addicting. This is the first night race. And in the night races, you can see and by the way, see Wolfwood66 is my cousin, and he's racing against me, even though he doesn't have this game, which is pretty cool. But what the night races do is really show off some of the limitations of the Xbox One as a graphical machine. So because it's running in HD and it doesn't really have a lot of power left over for some decent anti-aliasing. So you can see a lot of aliasing, jaggies around corners, jaggies around curves. And in night races, they're very, very obvious because they all are white. You can see them with the reflection. They're all white. So it almost looks on some points of cars like little sparklies. And it can get really distracting. Thankfully, when the game's in motion, you don't see a lot of that. But if you rewind this video for a few seconds when it's first starting out, and you can see my car under the lights, you can see sparklies all over it. But for the most part, the headlights, the headlights are really cool. It does illuminate shadows and things like that. The lights of this track are pretty dynamic, and they cast shadows, and they do some really, really neat things with that. So overall, I'm very impressed with the way that this game looks. So next up, I'm gonna just let one more lap of this go, and then I'm gonna skip forward even more and show you some rain racing, some inclement weather racing, which is always, for me, I don't know about you, but that is how you judge the graphical fidelity of a racing game. It's always either like snow or definitely rain. That is how you determine what the game is pulling here. So yeah, I mean, you can see some really cool colors here, some really neat lighting. It doesn't feel like a dead track, if that makes sense. It feels like there are things beyond the track, which is cool. Of course, it doesn't go like Forza Horizon 2 crazy with that, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So I'm gonna skip right ahead to the inclement weather here, and this is pretty cool. They do some really interesting things with hydroplaning here. So around this track, you'll see in a second, around this track are puddles. And the puddles are typically on the sides, so like on the left side or on the right side, not very often the middle, but on the sides. And if you hit one of those puddles while you're going at top speed or even reasonably fast, you hydroplane. And when you're hydroplaning, you basically lose control of your car, and the controller goes all but dead. And see, there's a puddle, and I'm starting to hydroplane. It goes almost dead, where it just vibrates very, very softly, and it gives you this impression that your car is just completely out of control. And it's really, really, it's almost exhilarating, actually. It's a very, very, very neat effect, and I'd like to see other racing sim games do that. I find myself really trying to avoid those puddles, going out of my way, trying to stick to the center of the track where those puddles typically aren't going to be. And for once in a racing game, it really feels like there's a drawback to racing in inclement weather. Other games, what they do is, oh, it's raining, so The track is just going to be a little bit slippery. You're going to slip and slide all over it. You're not going to be able to brake as fast, that kind of thing. But with this, it feels like it's having a material impact on your second-to-second racing. It's a really, really neat sort of thing. You can see here that the effect, the inclement weather effect, the rain effect, isn't anything wonderful. You just basically get some neat reflections in the water on the track. You can see it a little bit at the end of this race. You get a little bit, a few reflections here and there. You get some splatter on the windshield. But you know, I've seen better inclement weather. It's the gameplay that matters, and the inclement weather gameplay is really, really, really cool. I would love to race more rain races after this. It's a very, very neat effect. So that is going to about do it. So far, I'm really impressed. I'm liking it quite a bit. Definitely worth a purchase if you like racing games. If you're not a big racing sim kind of guy, jump in, because they give you all the support that you need if you're brand new to the genre, or you're just really bad at it like I am. The game almost has, even though it's a hardcore racing sim, it has sort of an arcade feel, which is cool, because I like arcadey racers. I like kart racers. I like anything but sim racers, and I actually like Forza 6, so that says a lot. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I couldn't do this without you. I really appreciate it. If you would, please subscribe. That is going to allow me to keep bringing you videos like this on a regular basis, and I love every single one of you that subscribes. Seriously, thank you so much. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, so please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.